Hello, my name is Bernadette. I am the founder of QPA Virtual Assistants. Welcome. I believe if you're watching this video, you either are or you're about to become a QPA Virtual Assistants client. So welcome on board. I am very passionate about giving our clients an excellent experience with a virtual assistant because I know and I've experienced that having a VA can increase your quality of life. It can be so productive and make you a lot of money when it's done right. So I've created this video because I'm conscious that a lot of clients who approach us have never had a PA or a VA before, and they don't know how to approach the relationship. So during this video, I'm going to give you some best practices that you can do and things that you can bring to the relationship so that you get the best out of it from the start. So the first one is frequent, regular and consistent check-ins with your virtual assistant. So I encourage you to touch base with your virtual assistant at a minimum of once a week. This really helps us to stay on track with where we are in regards to your work. There may be tasks that are given that will take more than a week, so check-ins aren't always completely necessary, but a lot of tasks and projects comprise of different things that need to be done. So that check-in is a place where we can make sure that we're on track. Even if the task is not complete, we can update on progress, and it really just helps us stay aligned with you and what's on your plate. Even if there's not a lot to update, it's still good to check in. So what we encourage in the handover meeting is to set a frequent time in the calendar every week. So it could be, for example, Wednesday at 10 a.m. Whatever works well for you. The virtual assistant is usually more flexible around that time that's set in. But having that time locked in means that you know that you'll have a time to touch base. So try to stay up to date with your VA. If you have a VA and you've not spoken to them in 2-3 weeks, it's quite tricky for them to know that they're on track with whatever they're supposed to be working with you on. Number 2 is clarifying boundaries on both sides. I think it's really important to remember that every individual person is different and everyone has different boundaries, things that are sensitive to them, things that are important to them, and just places where they want to feel comfortable, and taking them out of a certain area would make them feel uncomfortable. So understanding boundaries between a client and a virtual assistant is going to be really important to make sure everyone feels comfortable and that there's sensitive areas are protected during the working relationship. So share your boundaries with your virtual assistant. For example, that could be times that you would like to be contacted. If you are a responsible adult for a child and evening times are protected times with you and your child, then maybe you don't ever want to be contacted in those times, and that's okay. It's just about sharing those boundaries. And it could be also your preferred style of speaking within your business. So every business has a brand, and some people are very sensitive on how that brand comes across. So if you want your business and your brand to be represented in a particular way, again, it's important to share that with your virtual assistants. They're really clear on how to speak and how to represent you. And these are examples of the boundaries that can be shared early on in the relationship to make sure that there's that alignment between you and your VA. And equally, I think it's important to respect the boundaries of your virtual assistant. It's important to remember that it is a professional and working relationship, which means as an employee, there are certain boundaries that your VA will have. For example, how you speak to them or the times that you try to contact them. Over time, you do build a rapport and you get to understand your VA. A lot of my clients have actually become friends. So I think you do foster that relationship over time, but just understanding your VA's boundaries will really help you to get the best out of the virtual assistant that you're working with. So that's something that can be shared early on, and feel free to drive that conversation and to lead that conversation with your VA. Okay, feedback. Feedback is point number 3. Feedback is extremely valuable to virtual assistants because it keeps them on track with the work that they're doing for you. If things are not being done correctly, it helps them to get back on track with where they're supposed to be. And if things are being done, it gives more energy and it gives builds morale to continue in the right path. So giving feedback is really important, especially in the beginning stages of the relationship, so that you can make sure you're both aligned, and picking out those details actually is really, really helpful. I know people may not want to come across as a micromanager, or they may want to encourage the VA to be more independent. However, especially in the beginning stages, the more feedback you input, the more the work becomes refined and it comes out as to where it should be. And make mention of the good and the bad. Both play a really important role for the virtual assistant in their understanding on how to work with you. Giving good feedback builds morale, it gives more energy, more, you feel more empowered to continue doing the right thing. And also giving bad feedback means that actually my feelings aren't hurt, but professionally, I'm able to improve in what I'm doing. Conflict resolution. This is something really important to have, especially in a professional and work setting. And it's important to resolve conflicts constructively and, more importantly, quickly. There may be things that do come up along the way in your relationship with your virtual assistant where you're really not happy about how things are done. And in the case of disagreements, that's where things need to be addressed quickly. I've had a scenario where a client has come to me months after an issue has occurred. And by this time, it's almost like a rolling issue because more things are piling up along the way that can sometimes blow up. And these things can be avoided. So the advice of dealing with anything that you're not happy with promptly is just to avoid that build-up of disgruntlement. And that will help us to then address the issues more constructively and objectively. So there's less emotional hurt, and it's more focused on, okay, objectively, how can we deal with this issue and handle it so it doesn't happen again? So my advice here is to, if there's anything that you're not happy with, if there's a disagreement, then it's looked at as soon as possible when you feel comfortable to, and work on it objectively and constructively so that things can get better. I'd also like to take this opportunity to mention that in QPA Virtual Assistants, there are a number of people in the team, and I work very closely with everyone. So if there are any issues with anyone who works within QPA, feel free to have an open channel of communication with me directly to share anything you're unhappy with. In those cases, no one will get in trouble, or it won't be, necessarily a bashing on that particular virtual assistant, but the aim is to make things better and to learn from any mistakes that are made. So again, please feel free to contact me directly with anything that you're not happy with, and the sooner the better. Okay, and my final piece of advice today, point number 5, which is my absolute favorite, is I advise you to share your goals, your vision, and the mission of your business with your virtual assistant. Share it with us here at QPA so that we can bring it to life with you. As a virtual assistant, when I started my business, I didn't realize how much of a passion I had in terms of bringing people's goals and their dreams to life. It is my number one aim to go above and beyond, number one, and to also see your systems, processes, and everything that works for you work efficiently and effectively without your input. Now, the only way that I can see your dreams come true is if I know what that actually looks like. So sharing your goals for the quarter, sharing your goals in the next 6 months for the end of the year helps us to understand, okay, this is what we're trying to achieve. This is the amount of time it needs to be done in. How can we get that done? It brings room for initiative and ideas of things that you may not have thought of that we can bring to the plate just because we know what we're trying to achieve. Knowing your vision is equally as important. Some people's visions are really, big and massive of, I want to take over the world, and us understanding that again leaves loads of room for initiative. And equally, some visions are quite simple. By the end of the year, I want to open another store, or I want to be in 10 different countries. Whatever your vision may be, share it with us. Let's run together, let's walk together. and we can go towards that vision. And finally, your mission. Understanding your why helps us to work as well. Everyone's why is different. What pushes them, what drives them can be so varied. And knowing your why just gives us more of an insight into who you are as a person. And the more information we have, the more we can deliver for you as a business, as an individual. I hope you found this video really useful, and there are at least a few things that you can take away with you to build a better relationship with your virtual assistant. Again, I would just like to highlight that I operate an absolute open door policy. If there's anything that you want to talk to me about directly, if you have any more questions about this video and the content of the video, or also just about your VA and the relationship that you have, please do feel free to get in touch. I would love to hear from you. Well, all the best, and I hope that you have a productive and a fantastic relationship with your virtual assistant going forward.